And there was a part of me, I think, that was like, this is my dream. I don't want to give up on myself. And I had to recognize that, like, I wasn't failing or giving up on myself. Like, I was moving with my evolution.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. This week's episode is a really special and unique one because up until this point, we are at almost 100 episodes now, we have been talking about what it takes to accomplish your goals and your dreams as an electronic music artist and DJ. And that's what I spend the large majority of my day and my time and my energy doing. I've been doing this for over a decade as an artist coach, previously working at Icon Collective Music Production School, and it's really what I've dedicated my life to. And this week's guest is someone that has really gone all in on pursuing her dreams, chasing her passion, and building her business. And she's someone that I consider one of my best friends, and I've had the privilege of being along her side while she has built this entire project from scratch. And today we're talking about a really interesting subject and topic, which is, when do you throw in the towel? When do you know, and when should you decide, if ever, that it's time to quit and it's time to retire a project and it's time to pivot and move on to the next adventure? This is something that we haven't discussed yet here on the podcast, and it's a conversation that I've had many, many times in my over 15 years of working with artists in the music industry, and it's something that she recently decided to do in retiring her project and moving on to the next chapter. And we had a really beautiful conversation about just that whole process and that very, very tough decision to make. So without further ado, this is Fredy Lane. Fredy Lane / Caitlin Brown, my bestie in the house. Here we are. Here we are in a very special episode. You know, you are now actually holding the record for most appearances on the Headliner Mindset podcast. We had a very early, within the first 10 episodes, you were one of my guests.
Yeah, like 4 or something, I think.
And then for my 6-month milestone episode, you were here in Austin, and we got to turn the tables, and you got to be the host, and you interviewed me, which was a really fun one. And
that was fun.
Now we are reconnecting at a very interesting moment in life and in your career. So why are we here today?
We are here today because I have decided to retire the Fredy Lane project, and there has been a lot of speculation, questions, etc. about why and what made me come to that conclusion. And you were the person that I felt I trusted to really help me bring that, I guess, story to life and communicate my truth. And I felt like it was a conversation that I owed to some people and my fans. So here we are.
First off, let me say thank you for trusting me and the space and being down and willing to, share this conversation, which is something that I think not a lot of people really think about and talk about, which is like, hey, when is it time to pivot? Right?
Yeah.
And it's not an easy conversation to have, but I think a lot of people do get to that point. And so what do we do when we get there? So just thank you for being down to come on and like open up this dialogue.
Of course. Thank you.
I feel like nervous, like having this. I'm like, oh, this is
Don't be nervous.
Such a, almost like feels like a sensitive topic. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I think it can be sensitive, but I think that I've gotten to a place of peace with it where it feels less sensitive. That's not to say that I will not get emotional or choked up maybe in this episode, but I just think, and I've always been this way, that like the truth matters. And I think that there are probably, well, I know there are, because people have reached out to me. I know there are other people that are probably in a similar situation and don't know how to make that final decision on whether to call it quits.
Well, let's give a little bit of context for the listeners that maybe don't know you, don't know your story. I think for me, it's extra sensitive because like you're like one of my best friends, and I've been so in your corner and like
Invested, yeah.
yeah, it's a part of the Fredy Lane project for a while, and so it's it's just an interesting space to be in. But let's talk about just your journey. Let's go back a little bit just to give a quick just introduction to your story, because we met through Icon. You were an Icon student. What year did you go there? That was a decision that you made where you're I'm going to really invest in my music and my artistry. So how long ago was that?
I attended 2017 into 2018.
2017, so like 8 years ago. Yep. And then when you went to Icon, you kind of took a little break after that, right? Before you like
took a long break. Yeah. I think I was pretty burnt out when I finished Icon, and I think music has been my life for most of my life. I grew up with music being my life, and until college, it was my number one. I showed up every day as a musician and singer. So music was always my life, and was something that I think I kind of had like a little bit of a push and pull relationship with my entire life. So Icon was obviously a time of my life where I was feeling pulled to it and inspired by it. And then by the time I finished, I wasn't very clear on what I wanted to pursue when it came to music, or what kind of artist project I wanted to pursue. So at the time, I was really broke from investing so much in myself and to going to Icon. I was working 3 jobs to put myself through it, and going to class from like 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. 3 nights a week, and then homework and everything else on top of that. So by the time I finished, I had some good job offers and in my other career, and wanted to kind of explore that route to essentially find some comfort and security.
Yeah, for sure. And then at some point, the music path, the artist path was really calling you. It was really knocking on your door, even from like almost like a spiritual perspective. I know we've talked about that, of it just being really kind of, in your heart and soul, and saying, hey, you gotta really give this thing a shot.
Yeah. Right? In 2019, so like about a year after I graduated, I started a company with my uncle, who at the time was my mentor and business partner that I had worked with for about 12 years. And that company took off immediately. We did 4 million in revenue in our first year. And I obviously had a rough time through COVID, because being in the event space, we had basically no work. I was out of work for 18 months. And then at the end of COVID, things really started picking up again. And I started making the kind of money that I thought would make me happy. And at that time, I was very engulfed in therapy and was learning a lot about myself. And I think I realized at some point that I wasn't going to be fulfilled by that path. And at that time, I was training to become CEO. I was supposed to be taking over the company for my uncle. It's kind of what I had been training to do for almost 10 years at that point. And I just knew ultimately I wasn't doing it for myself. And I was doing it more out of a place of wanting to continue my family legacy, wanting to take care of everyone else except for myself, and not really putting my passions at the forefront. And I was just sitting at my desk one day in therapy, and I was like, today's the day. I have it tattooed on me. It was May 5th of 2022. And I decided that day to leave the company and pursue music. And I've had a lot of people ask me at this point if I regret pursuing it, because I've probably invested over the years over $100,000 into my project. I invested a lot of time. I immediately treated it like a full-time job. And pursuing music was the best decision I ever made in my life. And for lots of different reasons. I think that I changed so much as a person over the last couple of years. And I think that I probably would have always wondered if music would have been the dream had I not
Yeah.
pursued it and
Yeah.
explored it to see if it was. And I think I would have always lived in regret had I not, coupled with the fact that my journey over the last couple of years has greatly transformed me as a person.
Mm.
And I would not for a moment take back a dollar that I spent or a second that I spent pursuing that because of who I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things in there I really want to highlight, which first off is one, your willingness to make big decisions. Making a big decision to leave a company, to leave a lot of money and success and say, hey, I want to try this out. I want to like go for it because I know that I'm going to regret it if I don't. And like taking the leap of faith, being decisive, and also like treating it like a fucking business. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's kind of like casually dabble and we'll like work on this a little bit and kind of see where it goes. It was like, no, you fucking hit the ground running like a badass, you know, and like went all in. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this at 100%. And you did treat it like a business. Like you said, you invested a bunch of money, you invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, right? You went all in on it. And I think just that alone, like that really deserves to be acknowledged and celebrated. You know, I think a
Thank
lot
you.
of people are, I mean, even myself included, I'm like, you know, I run my business, but like I could be really like hitting it, you know, and there's
Yeah.
just, you know, can be a very casual attitude that we have towards the things that we're building, which, you know, you certainly didn't have. So just to really like celebrate you for that. And then also to see like, hey, there's another really hard decision to make of like, you know what, I'm not really feeling this anymore. It's not really taking me where I want it to be. I'm going to make another big decision. A lot of times we'll circle around those fucking decisions for like years, you know, like,
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, that was not a decision that I made lightly.
yeah.
And it was not a decision that I made quickly either.
Yeah.
The decision to like actually leave took me a very long time. And I think I almost, I like to kind of compare it to like a toxic relationship where like
Yeah.
you're kind of on that roller coaster and like you have those moments where you feel like, okay, I know I need to leave, but you just keep riding it
Mm-hmm.
until X amount of time has passed and you finally hit that realization of like, okay, this isn't going to end until I end it.
Yeah.
And that was almost like how I was feeling probably the last year or so that I was pursuing music. I felt like I was on a roller coaster with music.
Yeah.
And I specifically, and I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, that I'm very in tune with my body and in tune with myself. And I knew that the way I was feeling was something that I shouldn't be feeling when following my dream.
Mm.
And I knew that like it couldn't be meant for me if I was feeling what I was.
What were you feeling?
There were just like days, and I know that this is going to be really relatable for some people, and they're going to be like, oh, I feel that too. And you just have to keep going. There were a lot of days that like I would leave the studio and like just completely break down, and not in like oh, I just like didn't make something I liked today, but like in a way where I felt really misaligned. I experienced a lot of like, am I actually creating for me or am I creating what my label wants, what my management wants, what my fans want? I started feeling really misaligned with the community in a sense, not like my fan base, but as you know, like electronic music is really revolved around the party and around festivals. And there are obviously a bunch of sober artists, but especially as a female, I feel like it was really difficult for me to form strong relationships with other artists and with people in the industry in general. I did experience a lot of very inappropriate like situations with men in the industry, and I realized that a lot of relationships were kind of built at the party. And as I healed over the years, I started not wanting to be in the club until 4 a.m., not wanting to be at the afters, not wanting to connect with people in that way. I am somebody that doesn't do drugs really anymore and hasn't for a really long time. And that was something that felt like it drove a wedge between me and creating connections in the industry. And obviously, part of why I even explored a career in this space was because I wanted to open up conversations about these things. And I didn't feel like I was making any leeway or even feeling like I was building like genuine connections in the industry. It just across the board, I felt like at every turn I was being met with resistance and was feeling very unaligned, and also just feeling like I was not finding my people. And I do truly believe that when you're in the right space and you're doing the right thing, you're going to attract your tribe. And I felt like I was starting to have less and less in common with the people around me.
Yeah. And so this feeling of misalignment was starting to grow bigger throughout the last year. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? What was the moment where you're like, you know what, like I'm actually going to officially make this decision and move on?
It's hard to say that it was like one thing. I think that ultimately I started looking at what I wanted out of my life over the next 5 years, and I realized that music wasn't a part of it anymore. I realized that honestly, I feel like as much as I loved it, there was still a part of me that was doing it for my ego. And I really had to like tap in and be like, if I am just trying to like think about what I want for the next 5 years on a soul level, like what does that really look like? Do I need that fame? Do I need to be traveling and touring? And like, do I need all of that? Or like, would I be happy doing something else? And something that majorly changed for me in the last couple of years was the fact that I started having the call to like start a family and settle down. And that was something that really changed the trajectory of my life, because when I first started Fredy Lane, that was not even remotely on my radar. I was not worried about like settling down, finding my person, having kids, none of that. And I think through the last 3 years, I have done a lot of healing work and kind of healed a lot of the wounds that made me scared to have a family and to have children. So I think that overall, like my priorities changed and I changed, and I just genuinely didn't want it anymore. And there was a part of me, I think, that was like, this is my dream. I don't want to give up on myself. And I had to recognize that like I wasn't failing or giving up on myself. Like I was like moving with my evolution and not fighting my evolution on like an ego level. Like I think my ego was like, you can't give up on yourself. Like everyone's going to think you failed. Like you're going to feel like you failed. Like it takes like commitment and years of hard work to like get to where you want to be. Like arguably like 3 years is not very long to be going after a career to like make it successful. But I had to really break it down and be like, am I holding on to this because I don't want to feel like I failed? Or am I holding on to this because I genuinely love it and feel aligned with it and it's going to make me happy? And I genuinely think that sometimes you have to chase that dream to figure out, is it really the dream? Like, is that really what's going to make you happy and fulfill you at the end of the day? And I think there was just a moment of me realizing it wasn't.
Damn, that is some real talk right there, because I feel like I've seen it. You know, I've been around for 15 years in this scene pretty much, and I've definitely questioned that as well. I'm like seeing people that are still, you know, chasing the dream, grinding, pushing the boulder up the hill, And then questioning, I'm like, oh, is it just the ego that's holding on to it? Because yeah, like what does that mean if and I don't even want to say quit, but it's like if I pivot, if I change directions, what does that mean about me? Right. I
Yeah.
think that there's this attachment to, oh, that means I failed. That means
Yeah.
I'm a quitter. So like I can't fail. I can't be a quitter. I'm going to cling on to this thing until it fucking kills me. Right.
Well, and that's how I felt. I was like, I think it's so easy for people to look at artists and be like, oh, they just didn't make it,
Yeah.
and like that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
I think that I genuinely had an immense amount of support from the electronic music community, and I genuinely feel like I could have kept with it and been really successful. And I had to accept that walking away didn't mean I was failing. It meant that I was actually choosing me.
Mm-hmm. You were evolving. This is something I feel like was always a little bit of an edgy perspective that I would offer when I was teaching the art of flow at Icon, and also even with my clients as well in my group program. They've heard me say this a bunch of times, but it's like life should be about following your bliss and the excitement and the curiosity and the joy and the inspiration. And so right now at this chapter in your life, it is electronic music, being a DJ, this whole world, this whole scene. And it's like, if at some point something else starts to excite you and starts to be more interesting, you got to follow that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that can be kind of the hard place. Is it's like, it might be that we're losing the steam and the passion, the current passion for the dream of being an artist. And the next thing might not yet be presenting itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like that's kind of more easy when it's like, hey, there's another thing that's coming up. That thing might be, hey, I want to have a family. Hey, I don't want to be living a lifestyle where I'm on planes every weekend and I don't get to spend time with my family. That might be your truth, right? But paying attention to like, where is my internal compass pointing me? And actually really being able to feel that and being honest about that. And I think just speaking from my own perspective, my whole path so far has been a journey of what is calling me at this stage and right now, right? And it was quitting a finance job to move to LA and get into the music industry. It was like having a job at Capitol Records. Then it was getting excited about electronic music and becoming a manager. Then it was finding Icon and being like, oh my God, Icon's cool. Let me go over there. Then it was coaching. I was like, oh, coaching. And I fucking swear to God, I will not be coaching forever. I say this all the time because it's like part of my evolution is that I'm going to grow. I'm going to shed this layer of my skin and something else is going to come along that's more interesting, that's more exciting. And so having the courage to go move on to the next thing, right? It is, I think, part of how we are designed is to evolve and to change. And but it's such an interesting. I'm really glad we're opening up this conversation because it's such an interesting space of like, okay, am I just throwing in the towel too early because it's getting hard, or is it genuinely like in my fucking heart and soul, like God, the universe, like is not pointing me in this direction. The door's not opening for a reason, or I'm just feeling, burnt out and on it because there's something else I'm supposed to be doing that's going to feel better that I'm in more alignment with.
Well, and I battled with that. I had an ex that had made a comment that really stuck with me. And he was like, when you are not good at something, you like to jump to the next thing. And you're not somebody that is good at taking the time to really like master something and be good at it or be bad at it before you're good at it. And I think I was holding on to that narrative for a really long time and letting that kind of define my story. And it took a lot of time and therapy and thinking to kind of, I don't know, like dig into that and see if that was actually real for me and to pick out the difference. Like, am I here because it's just getting hard and I'm scared and I'm running away? And I think that's why it took so long for me to make the decision, because I wanted to fully explore that. I wanted to make sure this was not me just getting cold feet. This was not me just giving up when things got hard. If anything, I feel like my career was probably in the most primed place to succeed when I decided to walk away as it ever had been.
Yeah, you
My
just had a
music
big
had, yeah, I had a
you
big
just had a big record
record
deal,
deal.
or like like a lot of stuff was going
I
well
was
for you.
really leveling up my music. I was moving in a great direction. And ultimately, I was able to come to a conclusion that, like, this was not me just finding something else shiny and new to like give me that dopamine hit and like start chasing something new. Like when I decided to leave music, I genuinely had nothing on the other side. And
Yeah.
I still don't feel like I have something concrete on the other side. I am just listening to my intuition at this point and knowing that the thing that's meant for me will give me peace of mind
Hmm.
and a type of peace of mind that music was not able to give me. And that might not be the case for everyone, and that might not be everyone's mentality, but that's the way I choose to live my life. And I want something that lights me up and something that doesn't constantly make me question myself and question my worth. And that ultimately was something I had to really, really work through.
Yeah, it really is like a relationship, right? It's like if you're in that relationship and it's always hard, you're questioning yourself, clinging on to this like I hope maybe he changes, hopefully someday we
Yeah.
can be happy. Yeah, it is such an interesting dynamic. Earlier I love what you said about just who you became in the process. Like I love that perspective. And I think Zig Ziglar is one of the original people that had a quote about that, which is like success is not necessarily about like the accomplishment of the goal as much as it is about who you become on the way there. And I think when you open that up, like we get so attached to like I have to make it, I have to quote unquote make it,
Yeah.
and it's like we're fucking like attached to this destination. And when we actually let go of that and it becomes more about who am I being? I'm being the type of person that's willing to take big risks, that's willing to be courageous, to take a leap of faith, to chase my dreams. And it's like, whether or not I get there, I become the kind of person that's willing to do that kind of thing. I become a
Yeah.
courageous person. I become a bold person. I learn a lot about myself in the process. And what at the end of the day, what do I have to show for it? It's like, I'm either so attached to like, oh, well, either I made it and I'm touring the world and I'm the biggest DJ in the world and I have money, like, or not. It's like all or nothing. And it's like, well, no, what do you have to show for it? Is like, who are you now 3 years later? Right.
Also, like, I had so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
I get to look
Yeah.
back on like this chapter of my life and think about like I played EDC Las Vegas not once but twice.
It's true.
I played festivals all over the country. I got to like go to shows all over the country. I played Miami Music Week. Like I had the most fun I've ever had in my life during this chapter of my life. And I know that
Yeah.
there's going to be many more amazing memories to come, but
Yeah.
like I genuinely had so much fun
Yeah.
and am so grateful that I'm going to be able to like look back and tell my grandchildren and my kids about this chapter of my life. Like I genuinely loved it and had so much fun with it and don't regret a minute of it. But
Yeah.
like you said, like I just evolved and realized that my day to day looks different. Like we've had this conversation, I think in the first episode we ever did together, that like you have to figure out like what do you want to wake up every day and do. And I got to the point where I realized that my everyday doing this was not fulfilling me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How would you say you have grown and evolved as a person through this process and journey?
The biggest difference that I see in myself is my self worth. I think that when I got into this, I was extremely sure of my want to be Fredy Lane, but I was not extremely sure of myself. And I think that that's something that you probably could see through the amount of times the direction changed, the amount of times I rebranded, the constant feeling of like not knowing if what I was putting out was authentic or not, even though I was trying so hard to be authentic. I don't think I even knew at that time what authentic really was to me because
Mm.
I hadn't gotten to know myself on this level before. It was like the first time that I didn't have complete financial security in a while. It kind of brought me back to, you know what I mean? After you go from like not having financial security to having it and then choosing to not have it again. It just like kind of strips you of a lot. I also had abandoned a career that was 10 plus years of my life to pursue this. And I think that I kind of shifted from like my identity being around events and being a business owner to my identity being around music. And then towards the end, realizing my identity needed to be around me and not around my career. And I don't know, I could look back on that girl that started Fredy, and I think about like how insecure I really was deep down. And then now looking at who I am, and like, there is not a thing someone can do or say that would shake my opinion of myself. And like, yes, I'm excited to have this opportunity to like share with everyone why I did this, but I think I've felt a lot of peace with it because I'm no longer looking for validation outside of myself. And that is not something I could say for the girl that started this.
Yeah. What helped you get there? What helped you get to that point where you were really able to let go of needing that validation?
Honestly, like therapy is the big thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of conversations with my therapist, not only about music, about relationships, just in general. I went through probably the most significant romantic relationship of my life over the last couple of years, and that was something that changed me a lot as a person. And I think this was the first time that I really worked on my attachment and became more secure. And I think that it has sprinkled to like every aspect of my life.
Yeah. 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 A relationship is definitely one of the most powerful containers for growth as well. We learn a lot about ourselves in that process.
The mirror, the mirror really held up to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for you?
I'm moving to Paris.
Hey,
Hey.
let's go. Okay, how's your French? What do they say over there? Give me some French. You got it down yet?
Not yet. I'm taking French lessons right now.
Nice. Okay, why?
I'm not completely comfortable yet, but
why France? Why Paris?
So actually, right after I started pursuing Fredy, I took a month-long Euro trip. It was right before I got booked for my first EDC. And there's just something about Paris that has been calling me since then. And like that first trip, I was there for 8 days in Paris. And the last day, I had like a complete mental breakdown. I just felt like I was leaving somewhere I was meant to be. And the whole train ride to Spain, I was looking up flats in Paris, thinking like, how can I move here?
Yeah.
And then I've been twice since then. And every single time I'm there, I just feel like the most grounded version of myself. I feel very safe. I don't know. It's like I feel like a higher version of myself that I have been wanting to tap into. And when, I don't know, like this probably sounds woo-woo, but like when things stopped aligning with music, it felt like I had really good music and I had all the things that I needed to see that success. And when it wasn't happening, it's almost like I felt like the universe was like intentionally blocking it from happening.
Yeah.
And then I came to the decision of, I don't know if this is actually going to make me happy. And I felt like things were just like really clearing the way. And you know how they say like you have to burn everything down to make space for new to grow and build. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like little by little things were just falling apart in my life to make space for new.
Yeah.
In a sense. And I don't know, I just had this like intuitive hit that this was my time. And I've always said like I want to end up in Europe. I want to move to Paris. I want to move to Europe, whatever. Like something that I've been thinking about for a really long time and have always kind of like had as a dream in the back of my head. And I just couldn't ignore the call anymore. It's like again, it sounds really woo-woo, but like I genuinely feel like there's a version of me waiting there for me. like a version that I need to be, an experience and a chapter that I need to have. So I don't know that like Paris is my forever, and I don't know what that next chapter looks like specifically, but I know that Paris is the next step to getting there.
Yeah. Just following the trail of breadcrumbs. What's next, right?
And honestly, like once I decided, it took me like within 3 weeks, I had an apartment, had my visa, everything. Like it happened so seamlessly and so fast
Yeah.
that I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, the universe is,
yeah.
it's,
Let's get
it's
woo
lighting
woo
shit
right
up for
now.
me.
Let's
Yeah.
get woo woo. All my listeners know we get fucking woo woo over here, and there is something to be said for that, right? Where it's like what's meant for you will always find you, and there definitely is
And you
something to be
can't force
said.
something no matter how bad you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if something is feeling really hard and really forced, it might be that the universe is keeping that door locked for a reason to redirect you towards where you really should be. You know, I think that all of us were born with an inherent gift to bring to the world, whatever that may be. And you know, for a lot of people, I think we get really inspired by music and artists, and we're like, fuck yeah, that feels so good to experience this. I want to do that too. And we start kind of chasing that dream, pursuing that. But you got to question, I'm like, okay, well, then why does it not happen for literally so many people? I think for some people, there is something else out there that it's like, if you pivoted into it, it's like, oh, boom, boom, boom. All the doors are going to open. Everything's going to feel easy. There's going to be synchronicities. There's going to be flow. It's all going to happen. But again, it's like our ego is often attached to like, oh no, it needs to be this thing, right? Because of my plan. I mean, I've been really deepening my spiritual practice and just my belief, and really trusting that it's like, God has a plan for me. The universe has a plan for me. And it's not about me and my plan. Believe me, I've wanted to quit coaching multiple times. What kept me in coaching was feeling that it was like the universe was telling me, no, stay here. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, I just want to go get a tech job and make a bunch of fucking money. That's what I want to do. Right. But really starting to surrender and listen to like, okay, I have my plan, but maybe God or the universe has a different plan for me. Am I willing to listen to what that might be? And am I willing to have the courage to let go and to surrender, to submit to that higher power, to that other plan? It's scary as fuck, right?
Yeah.
But then when you do, it's like knowing that like, yo, this thing has your back, whatever you want to call it, whatever this energy is, life force, source energy, right? There's like a current of energy that's powering the entire universe. And it's like surrendering to, hey, let me do it your way. Right. And see what happens.
And I think that's kind of the place that I got to. Like, just to back up and kind of give a little bit of background, I, from a very young age, supported myself, and I think I gave myself a lot of unrealistic expectations, but from a really young age, I wanted to be able to live a certain life and wanted to be able to give that to myself for personal reasons. And that involved me moving to LA and taking a job with my uncle, because I knew that that was a safe way to success, and kind of had that path lined up for me, even though it wasn't the path that at that time I really truly wanted deep down. But that's what felt right, and that's what I went after. And I spent most of my 20s living in fight or flight and living in survival mode and doing what I needed to survive. And I think that I've finally reached a place in my life where I'm no longer just surviving, and I'm no longer feeling the need to do things for that sense of survival. And this is probably the first time in my life where I'm not looking to like the next 5 years of my life and trying to control every piece of it. Like, I have no idea. I have like the loose things. Like, I know that I want to meet somebody. I know that I want to have a family. I know that we don't have kids. I know that there are some, as an entrepreneur, some businesses that I want to eventually explore. And I know that I want to push a lot more into my creativeness. I know that I want to share a lot more with like my vulnerability and start really showing up online more authentically than I felt I could when music was my focus. But at the end of the day, like I have zero attachment to how that happens. And I think that like finally surrendering and not needing to control
Mm-hmm.
has been the game changer for me. But it took a lot of work to get there and a lot of work to allow it. And I'm not going to lie and act like there aren't days where I switch back into that lack mindset and try to control. But it's something I've really, really tried to focus on is living abundantly and really just surrendering and trusting myself. Like trusting
Yeah.
that no matter like I could move to Paris and just like completely hate it or fall flat on my face and not be successful in my next venture. But I think that's what you were saying is like it takes that trust, not that everything's going to work out and that everything's going to be amazing and everything you try is going to be like incredible, but that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I have my own back and I trust myself to keep following my bliss.
Yeah. And at least you'll find out and you'll know, right? It's like the
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen is you go out there and you fall flat on your face and you hate it and you're like, oh shit, this is not what I wanted to be. Like, okay.
And then
now
I pivot again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. That's it. It's
Honestly,
like
I'm like a big like listener of podcasts, and lately I've heard this repeated on multiple different podcasts where they're interviewing CEOs and very successful people. And something that has been a pattern is like really, really successful entrepreneurs and CEOs and successful people, they know when to pivot.
yeah.
And like I forget what it's called, but like basically when you've invested enough time and money into something, you'll want to hold on to it because of the investment you've already put into it. But knowing when to walk away is actually like the key to being successful and not being afraid. Like if you look at like, for example, like the Kardashians, you see like Skims and you see all the companies that are huge that were super successful. But like if you actually look through like their portfolio of businesses and things that they've like founded, there are a lot of failures and a lot of things that didn't go right. But you have to like as an entrepreneur, like trial and error and find the things that stick. And like for me, this was an amazing chapter of my life. I don't regret it whatsoever because music had always been so important to me that I think I would have always regretted not going after it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that like music won't be in my life in some capacity. Like I am sure I'll probably still on occasion take writing sessions and still get in the studio with certain artists that I really admire and be part of the creation process. But I just don't see that being my everyday anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And music will just always be a big part of my life. It's what I love. But I think there's also a part of me that's like kind of falling in love with it again now that I don't have to wake up and stress about it every day. Like it's so nice just waking up and putting on a playlist and singing along to my favorite songs and not being stressed about how I'm going to show up in a session that day or like if I'm going to come up with a good song in time for my next release with my label because of the label, like the promises I have and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, am I going to fulfill my promises to my label? Am I going to make my fans proud? Are they going to like this new direction I'm doing? You know, it's just like as authentic as you want to be in music, there's still an element of you cannot be 100% authentic and you can't just always follow what you want in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings up a good point about how very narrow, almost like tunnel vision we can get of what we think an artist's career is supposed to look like, or specifically in the, you know, the DJ world. It's like, okay, I'm going to put out a track every month and build my social media, and then I'm going to get a manager, I'm going to get an agent, and Insomniac is going to start booking me, and I'm going to start playing this, you know, this circuit. And it's like, yes, that is a path for sure. But what else could your journey with music look like and your relationship with music look like? You know, it's like maybe for you, it's not being a DJ that's signed to one of the major agencies and is like doing that. Like maybe it's, being a songwriter. Maybe it's singing. You know, for me, I have this vision of I want to be like 50 and playing the
In a band?
drums in like a dad cover band of like us, me and all the dads, and we're gonna like fucking just play at like the local bar like on the
Yeah.
weekends and play covers, and it's like fuck yeah. It
But
doesn't
it's
mean
like
that like
that to me, like if you told me that, I think there's probably like one point in my life where I would have smirked at it a little bit. And I'm finally at a place where I'm like, that makes me happier to hear you say that because genuinely feel like that's something that would fulfill you on a soul level and on an ego level. And I think that
totally.
that's just a shift that I had to come to on my own was like, will this actually make me happy on a soul level?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is my day to day going to be something that really fulfills me? And I think that there were aspects that I liked. Like I wanted to travel and I wanted to see the world and I wanted to like see new places. And obviously I wanted to write music and I wanted to like share that music with the world. I wanted to share my story. I wanted people to be able to relate with me. And like I wanted to make people feel safe ultimately with
Yeah.
their truth. And
Yeah.
I think that there are more fulfilling ways for me to do all of those things.
Yeah. Tony Robbins says success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And
Yeah.
we see it, we've been around a lot of very successful artists, and not everybody's actually really fulfilled, right? It's like
A
almost
lot
like
of them are.
it's like one of the worst things is, hey, like I've achieved the goals and I got here and I am touring and I'm doing all these things, and now I'm like, I actually don't really love the grind. And it's almost like if you don't love it now on the come up, you're probably also not going to love it when you get there. Right. And like that
Well,
would be
and
like such a shitty place to get where it's like, damn, I worked so hard to like create this thing and now I've created this thing, but it's just still now it's work and it's a grind and it's
yeah,
like I'm not actually really truly fulfilled. And it's one of the biggest traps I think, we do see a lot of people get stuck in. And granted, there are a lot of people where it's like, you were fucking put here on earth to make electronic music and to be a DJ and to live like that's your fucking destiny. And it's so clear. And it's oftentimes really easy for those people. It's like, it's just everything just kind of works out because that was God's plan for you,
them.
Yeah. And there's a lot where it's like, either it's really like pushing the boulder up the hill and it doesn't ever happen, or it does happen, but then,
It's not
you're
what you
not
think.
actually, it's not what you think and you're not actually fulfilled doing it,
I think the telltale sign for me is that when I start thinking in a way of like, I'll be happy when, that's when I know I'm no longer aligned. Because
Yeah.
when I first started pursuing music, I was genuinely so happy every single day. Like I would wake
Yeah.
up and every single day I felt like I was living my dream. And that was something I never had in my career. Like when I was working at Cinematic, like no matter how successful I got, I was always living in the future of like, I'll be happy when we make X amount of money, when we have this many employees, when we land this job. Like I was never happy in the present. Then when I started pursuing music, I was happy every single day for a certain amount of time until I got to that point again where I was like, I am starting to live in that future again. And when I really broke it down, I was like, but would I actually be happy when I get to that place? Or would it always just be like, would it just be another pattern? Like, and
Yeah.
I think that that is when you can tell that something's not like genuinely fulfilling you and you're kind of just doing it
Yeah.
from the purpose of your ego.
Yeah. And it's hard, happiness is a fleeting emotion, and it's something that even
For
when
sure.
even when we are super in the pocket and aligned with our mission and our purpose, there's also a lot of days where it's like, this is fucking, it's still,
I
we're
am
still,
not saying I am not saying that like everything that is aligned with you or meant for you is going to be easy all the time. And I
yeah,
definitely
not at
don't
all.
want that to be what message anyone gets from this. Like
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that like in any successful relationship or marriage, any successful career, like there is always going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
But to me, it felt like towards the end, I was never reaching this place of like mental clarity that this was right for me. I was constantly like on this teeter-totter of like one day I wanted it, one day I didn't. I think like creating content was a big part of it too. I felt like the content that my label and that the industry was kind of wanting from me was not feeling very authentic with what I wanted to put out there, what I wanted to create. And I don't know. I think that sometimes you just have to go out there and try something. Like, I don't know. That's what like college is about. That's what like growing up is about, is like trying all these different things, seeing if you like, you know, in school, we like try all these different sports and nobody's sitting there like, oh, you're a loser. You switched from soccer to track and like now you want to try track. Well, you know, like no
Yeah.
one's looking at you like you failed
Yeah.
because you want to try something new. And I think as an adult, it becomes a lot more serious and people start having this different lens. But
Mm.
I've kind of just stripped that all away. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my childhood and a lot of my life in survival mode just trying to take care of myself. And now I'm in a place where I'm financially stable and I'm more mentally stable than I've ever been. And I'm sure of myself and secure in myself. And I want to keep exploring things until I find what's meant for me. And I just think that, I don't know, like I haven't felt this level of peace in a really long time. And that was even with the fact that I'm walking away from what I thought was my dream.
That piece that you bring up about our social programming around, like, you know, college is the time to find yourself and experiment with things. And it's like, okay, well then what? Then you just lock in and like, I found myself, I'm 25 now. And so now I know exactly who I am and what I'm
You're
doing.
not
And it's
even
like,
like fully formed at
no,
that
but and it's
age,
like,
you
here's the
know?
thing is, I think as humans, we're not ever fully formed, you know, like we
Yeah.
continue to evolve. I mean, a lot of people, they just get to a certain point and then they just, yeah, maybe lock in and kind of live the rest of their life being the same person forever and doing the same thing. But that's not the only way. I think the idea of reinventing yourself and being able to reinvent yourself whenever you want. There's no fucking rules. There's no rules that says
Yeah.
when you're 60, you can't completely also reinvent yourself and burn everything down and fucking start a new chapter of life. Like who says we have to just be locked in on anything ever, you know? So I think that
Yeah.
that's a big thing to kind of get out of our head as well. It's just like, oh, we have to have it all figured out, or you have to, you know, find yourself and know every detail of your life. It's like, dude, I'm going to be finding myself and discovering myself and peeling back layers until I'm dead, because I'm an infinite being. There is no bottom to the depth of who and what I am and what's out there to experience in the world, you know? So there's like a great saying where it's like most people like don't live to be 80 years old. It's like they turn 30 and then just live 50 of the same years over and over, right? It's like, at what point do
Mhm.
you just start going through the
You're like an
cycle of,
autopilot,
yeah, on autopilot? It's like, oh, let's keep evolving and expanding and discovering ourselves. So I
which I
love that
think
you're
is
doing that.
something, yeah, I think that's something that I've, like I said, have had to change the narrative around myself and be proud of the fact that, like, yeah, I have changed and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep changing and I'm going to keep evolving. But I think if there's one thing that someone listening could like take away from this, I would hope that it would be like, no matter what point in your life you're in, like if you're not happy with your life, it is never too late to start over and to reinvent yourself and to chase your peace and your bliss and something that might be your like forever dream. You know what I mean? Like I just think that there's just too much stigma around like finding something and working until it happens, even if it's not meant for you.
Especially for someone that's just like, yeah, feeling stuck or feeling lost and might feel like, oh my God, I'm stuck here. I've made so many mistakes and I fucked my life up. You know, it's like, no, never,
No.
never. Today's a new day. Like it is still a blank canvas ahead of us wherever you are. Like, and you hear these incredible stories all the time of people and, you know, totally later in life and just like completely flipping the script. And it just takes the willingness and the mindset to believe that, like, wait a minute, I still have a lot of life left, regardless of where I am, how far along, what career I'm in. It's like, it's up to us.
Yeah, there's really no timeline. Like
Yeah.
everyone's timeline, everyone's path is so unique to themselves.
Yeah.
And you can literally start over anytime.
And on the other side of it, like I love stories of I'm here, hear people that are starting their music career at 40. And they're just like, ah, fuck it. Like I had a client who she's a lawyer. She's in her mid-50s, and she's like, I want to be a fucking DJ. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna go for it. Like, yeah, girl, let's go. Right. It's so cool. But again, it's all about the mindset. There's so many people thinking too, they have to have it figured out. I love hearing these kids in their like 20s. They're like, oh my God, like I gotta make this happen. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're good, bro. It doesn't end.
You're going to keep figuring it out for the next 10, 20 years.
For sure. It's all good.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of us, we get stuck in it's almost like this like shame, or at least for me, it was shame. Like, I think that a lot of my life I held on to a lot of shame for a lot of decisions that I made, and it kept me like in this almost like this circle or cycle of like staying in that same place and being that same person. And it wasn't until I really like worked through that piece in therapy of like letting go of the shame of maybe how I showed up or who I was or what I was putting out in the world, and just chose to be a new person and show up differently. And like, I know I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, my own podcast. Like, I really used to struggle with alcohol a lot. And I used to black out every time I partied. It would put me in really bad situations. And I realized at some point that I didn't feel worthy of being somebody that protected themselves in that way. And I held a lot of shame around the girl that I was, and held a lot of shame around the fact that I didn't feel like a worthy person, somebody that was worthy of like not getting blacked out and like protecting themselves and not putting themselves in bad positions and not having to party like that. And I've done a lot of work around my worth and my value as a woman. And I think that it kind of just rings true that at any moment you can choose different for yourself, and you can choose to value yourself more, and you can choose to show up differently. And I would say that I've done that, and I've really healed a lot of parts of me that I held a lot of shame about.
Yeah. And it does take work. It does take the willingness to like really dive in and look at those parts of yourself and heal those parts of yourself, and, do the therapy and do the healing work. And it also can almost be as quick as just a decision of just like, hey, I'm choosing to not be that person anymore, right? It can happen so fast as well. I might have spent the last 20 years being a certain way, but I don't need to spend the next 20 years trying to, to change it. It's like I can flip that switch pretty quickly. And it's just like the willingness and just believing that that's possible. Like, again, we got a blank slate ahead. And well, I am so proud of you, and I love you so much, and I really appreciate you coming on to dive into this very important conversation. This is one of the deepest combos that we've had so far on the podcast, and so I think it's just great to explore all of this. And the cool thing about you is like you are just a badass successful person, and so it doesn't matter like what you do, you get to kind of point yourself at whatever it is, and you're gonna kill it, and you're going to grow and expand and do amazing. So
thank you.
I'm so excited for this next chapter for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to describe what I'm doing next, it's really just going to be showing the world that you can start over whenever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And I'll keep doing it as many times as I have to get to my happiness and my bliss. Not that I'm not happy now. Definitely very happy and very peaceful, but I think I just want to keep following that and finding something that gives me purpose, like a career that gives me purpose.
Yeah.
So
amen. Well, we'll do another one of these in 5 years when we're both reinventing ourselves again.
Right? We just have like a 5-year check-in.
Yeah. Who do we want to be this decade?
Who do we want to be next?
Yeah, let's go. Oh, all right. Well, I love you. Thanks so much for hopping on.
I love you too. Thanks.
I don't like you.